Hey guys, we've just finished our crazy intensive in London, and would you believe the hillside we're sitting on right now is Monet country? Mr. Producer's doing his best to give a view of it, torturing me to death to get a nice view of what Monet might have been looking at if he came up this hill. It's really been great. And I want to thank John Jay, who was in the intensive. Thank you, John, for being our single donor for this one. Wish you were here. I think John's running around London still. In any case, yeah, we've been looking at paintings at the museum. Lots more Monets, but going in and out of the gardens. You know, the famous lily pond is as wonderful as it looks. Let's just get our paints out. Let's just do it. This is it, guys. This is Monet's lily, whatever he calls it, bassin. Must be the word for pond. Really, really, really amazing. Yeah. It's nice how truthfully he brought it to life in color and the light. Yeah, it's nice. So nice to see. Oh, there, just with the studios in the background. This is a nice spot to view it from. You know, some of us are thinking a lot about spending some time down here. They won't let you paint, apparently, down there, but maybe creating an intensive, landscape intensive, coming over a town or two away and seeing what we can do to interpret, you know, to paint a landscape and see if we can see the Monet contribution. So much of what we're seeing here is just, you know, the violets and the blues and the incredible numbers of variations that he eventually woke everybody up to. It's kind of interesting also to see his sort of the work that led up to it, you know, a lot of his early work.
When he does portraits, it does look like it's kind of objects painting. You know, it's definitely looking at the face.
I don't know what he's doing. They're so homely. I mean, I'm talking about the technique.
I mean, we wouldn't talk about him, right, if he did this.
No, I don't think so. It's like they say about Rembrandt. It's just the first half of his life. He wouldn't be anybody.
Yeah.
No, but this is a case though where you can see you see the difference in these grays that are all the same value. It's very obvious that he's making different, the green to gold grays and the blue to purple grays.
Yes, well, he's ranged now.
But then that movement in the trees, that's one of those things, if you want to see the trees, you just look up there, but you'll see, if you can see the movement from gold on the upper half of the tree to the whatever it is in the other half, that's a huge piece of understanding that color. You know, just seeing that it's this, then that. Some point or another, he sort of looks like he just was overtaken by color. And of course, color and light. And he just becomes more and more interesting, you know, as you know, to the point where he just changes the world. Which of course means partially the Boston School world. Big part of that world, as you've seen possibly in my other videos, is Monet. The color, everybody was woken up seriously by Monet. You know, the concept, I guess really more than anything, of red, yellow, and blue in every spot and in the search for light, you know, the full spectrum search for light. Amazing how dirty old paintings look, prior history of paintings look after you've seen that, what Monet wakes people up to. Anyway, it's just been a real delight to see, you know, the building. Even he painted people out there, but he must have had some of those parties. In fact, there's a big boat sitting on the pond that looks like he probably was one of those that he was using to paint, have people sit in and paint. It's pretty worn out and brown now, no paint colors on it. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else might we talk about up here? Oh yeah. The one thing you start seeing though with the relation to the Boston School is that attention. So much I bring to you is that attention on what happens where joints meet. You know, that the Boston thing is, I mean, the Monet thing is so much daubs of color, you know, and it looks like intentionally, without any attention at all to the drawn edge, whereas the Boston School actually begins to power up a significant portion of their light effects via the points where For example, you might be seeing the leaves here against the sky. They're produced by the hardness of the edge as much as in other words, the contrast plus the edge quality, as much as the color relations. So that is the one thing that the Boston School guys bring to it. It's also a little frustrating to look at a lot of Impressionists because a significant amount of it just looks like poor education in drawing. And for all those who are hanging on with my conversation, it's just not necessary. It's you really want these days to be as good as you can and as good at all varieties, all aspects of painting. But we're just traveling through here because he's gotten everybody's attention. And it's just beautiful. Every time all the way down from London, every time you turn around, it's another Monet. He's got it right. He sees the light. He sees the color of this area. There's a whole conversation goes on about how colors are different in different areas. You wouldn't expect the same circumstances to exist up in London, for example. It's just different. We noticed it on the way driving down. But just quickly as you get out, this is fairly near the coastline. I know this appears to be the Seine River going right through the outside edge of this area here. Reminds me a lot of the Williamstown area where Gamble taught too. The patterns, big fields, and then patterns of trees, and then another open area. A lot of in and out of effects. But yeah. We'll have to think about that. Get ourselves an intensive with the idea of doing some landscape and just studying color and light outdoors. One of the things I like to keep saying to people is one of the ways to improve your method is do it outdoors and indoors. Does it work equally well? Does it deliver the same powerful results? It's kind of a key to your sorting out your own best methods, best practices. You don't really want to be 3 or 4 different kinds of painters. I always tell people that. Yeah. Oh, we also got to see some four Degas that were on the walls down here of one of the museums. There was a museum that ostensibly once was a museum for American Impressionists. I guess it's really been taken over by the shows now are just entirely French, I think. But I guess there were 6 or 8 Degas, several of which were extremely interesting. I think the background of one, really, really striking, strikingly beautiful color combination, sort of turquoises into golds and the golds to red side. This definitely is not a Boston School type, chiaroscuro drawing. This is straightforward outline, contour into form.
Yeah.
But look at that crazy gold in the back.
I know, that's what
fantastic.
Like in that, more natural light. How does that?
Well, he's probably got an east window, and he's doing what we did, block the window so the sun rays don't come in. But he winds up with some fascinating stuff.
Oh.
And of course, if she's in north light, she's all icy anyway, relatively. It's a chance to visit that. But just look how beautiful the greens, the yellows, all through the whole passage to the top there.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
That dance there.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy nice. But another one actually just showing how much he uses Impressionism, how Monet woke up the broken color thing, and Degas using it in what you can think of as anything but imaginative paintings. He draws a figure, he draws stuff around her, but there's no evidence that he's setting it up as a still life and painting it as you would if you're an Impressionist. So I call them imaginative. It just means you're piecing it all together. But he uses that same strategy of broken color. He'll take an area that's basically blue and he'll make it out of red, yellow, and blue, and those reds and yellows will be showing up in all other parts of the painting. Really noticeably in the particular nude that you probably all seen with the basin off to one side. So it's really fascinating to see how, and he of course called himself a decorator, and there's no question he's one of the greatest colorists of all time. But yeah, it's nice to see the development of the Monet broken color thing into really, you might say, the attachment of it to the longer history of imaginative work, which is what most Western art historically is. Yeah. Sargent does it a different way. Not the Monet thing so much, but the making light via the values. edge contrast, the values games. But yeah, what else did we view? There's some other interesting things. I'm trying to think what they were. I'm not trying to make a sales thing for Giverny, but it is a good spot. Totally crowded like Disneyland. We're here on a Monday, and there must be 1 million people here. They got parking lot after parking lot. In the middle of nowhere, France. But yeah, it's manageable. They won't let you paint here. That's the dark side of it. But there's no room. There wouldn't be any room to set up a picture. You can see numbers of places though where Monet's pictures were, especially the little bridge going over the little, what do they call it? The bassin, the pond, that little basin of water. What about this, Mr. Producer? Pretty good stuff, huh? Wow. Another one of those views. You can see a number of those tree paintings might have happened in a spot like this. The ones that show the autumn changes and stuff like that as well. Yeah, this long view of this thing is nice. What else did we see there? You could make out that he'd probably painted numbers, quite serious numbers of even his fall pictures where the colors and the trees are changing. They must have been done looking down that direction. There was foggy ones with the trees in and out. I should tell you more. We also were at Rouen yesterday and looking at the cathedral there. We were just guessing where the spot might be, and then finally somebody pulled up on the phone the Monets, and there we were standing in what we presumed to be his spot. Turned out to actually be the spot from which he would have painted this. It's just the spot where you'd have to stand just to be the furthest you could be away from that building with all the other construction, the other buildings around there. It's another beautiful thing. Makes you really respect the French. It's just astonishing, that building. I haven't seen other stuff, but Paris, as much as I've seen in Paris, I don't know if there's a more beautiful city anywhere. It's just crazy. It's amazing. I can see why people get attracted to it. Doesn't mean I'm staying though. I live in the woods. Yeah. Was there something else we covered? It seems like there might have been one other point that might have been fun to talk about. In any case, boy, that hillside's just getting more and more purple as we look over there. As this sun goes down just a little further, that distant hill is really turning into mist, purple mist. Yeah, wonderful. But one of the things that comes up, by the way, is we just did get out of the intensive, and with greater clarity than I've ever seen it, witnessed, you might say, in a single setting, because of what we were trying to do in this workshop, it became incredibly clear to me that how important it is for people to just be able to see colors in total context, just really be able to paint color contextually. I don't think you'll ever, and of course Monet is rather the guy who introduces that, the full spectrum, every color, everywhere, and other things, but anytime you have a spot of paint and you don't relate it to the other paint in the room, you're never going to get an impression of this thing. But that ability is such a primary thing, that ability to hit a color note and make it right to 2 and 3, and the field, make it right to the field in its intensity as well as its value and its hue. It's just such a, it's just been so clarifying today. And then of course we go to as we go, we were just really leaning on this. I guess it was pretty intense for our people. As we leaned on just those two things primarily, can you just get yourself today to change forever by seeing color in multiples and not just one, but creating context. See if you can produce the same set of 3 and 4 notes that you're seeing in nature. Can you make that multiple thing happen? It's just amazing what it wakes up for you. But then the second part we leaned on was, of course, trying to get you to finish the color by finding these leading points of effect that we use for setting up our painting, and that is to get to those points of effect, draw the color value and the edge, but making sure that when the value meets value, to produce that silhouetting, projective joint between a dark and a light, that you actually correct the color in the same way. Correct the color. What happens when two colors meet side by side? What is very special and has to be right there side by side. It's an odd thing to say that was the meat of what we did, even though we used portrait and still life and other things. Yeah, people left hungry though, so I hope that doesn't mean I didn't feed anybody. Yeah, we had a great time. Should say thank you to all you guys, to Selma and Chris and John, Jay here, and Jack, to Christoph and Leo, and who am I forgetting? One other guy, one other person. Oh yeah, of course, Anna from Poland. We had it was a delightful group. It was a delightful time together. And this is a sweet way to end it. You hear the birds chirping in the background. So I probably should get back out of here and head back to Paris, but thought you might just enjoy a minute or two sitting in the woods with us. We don't do this too often, do we? Anyway, I guess I'll say bye from the last thanks to John Jay. I think I'll say goodbye from Giverny, from Monet country. We all have a great painting week.